bulungda yigane men nigarım yok geceleri qara bastı tumarım yok
Current situation of the Uyghur people is dire.
From that childhood, I know that Uyghurs were not free.
The collective hatred that I felt is what kind of waking up call.
If I had opportunity, I never left my country.
When I think of home, I had a feeling of emptiness. There is no one.
I have about 10 grandchild right now. I didn't see them. This is the story.
That I'm not able to contact with my relatives, not being able to have time with my grandmother. That makes me really sad and anxious.
If I go back, probably my organ will be sold too, because I know how brutal the CCP is.
Definition of genocide is that it is the deliberate and systematic attempt to destroy an ethnic or religious group as a matter of policy, government policy. And this is exactly what I believe is going on.
My country now is one of the largest police states in the world.
You can't even sleep tight at night. You feel like any moment someone will come and arrest you.
Well, the evidence shows that there is a very well orchestrated policy and campaign in place to round up Uyghur peoples, both inside China and outside, and then place them in these camps where they can be controlled and targeted.
Women are systematically raped by Chinese security forces.
Why do you need to institutionally rape Uyghur women if you're trying to deal with separatism? None of these arguments make any sense.
Well, the Chinese leadership have said that their aim is to break the Uyghur people.
We are talking about a regime that does not respect human rights.
The world is waking up to the realities of authoritarianism inside the Chinese Communist Party and the hegemony that they want to impose on the rest of the world.
This is real. This is happening now, and you can do something about it.
Go after the people who've got the power. Go after the people who turn the screw. Go after the people at the head of all of this and take the head off this serpent.
What could be the greatest crime one could commit in today's world? The greatest crime in today's world is the simple act of being born as a Uyghur in East Turkestan. After the Nazi Holocaust, the world promised that never again would any community endure such pain and suffering. What about the Uyghurs of East Turkestan? The Uyghurs have a rich history and culture that is now threatened by extinction. It is a civilization that dates back to several centuries.
Uyghurs were the local people of East Turkestan, historically speaking. This is not my view, but the views of the Uyghur historians, and there are lots of books about that.
Music, poetry, literature is the, I can say, inseparable part of the Uyghur life.
The culture of the Uyghur people has evolved from the blending of a multitude of communities that traversed through the cultural melting pot in the fertile oases of the erstwhile Silk Road.
Thanks to the flourishing the functionality of the Silk Road, that Uyghurs located in the middle of the Silk Road that connected the East and the West. And so that's why in Uyghur culture you can find the influences of, or mutual influence of the ancient Indian culture, ancient Persian culture, Chinese culture, and also Roman culture or Western culture, including Greek.
Genetic research has shown that this intermixture or this admixture started roughly anywhere from 2,200 years ago to 2,900 years ago.
When it comes to religion, the Uyghur people have followed and accepted a variety of religious beliefs and ways of life.
Uyghurs worshipped, like for example, totemism, and later on we have shamanism. Later on we have very flourished Buddhism and Manichaeism, and we have Christianity, and we have Islam. Islam was the last religion, but also we have some small sects of all these religions that flourished in that region, Central Asian region and beyond. So in that sense, Uyghur culture is very dynamic, as well as very resilient and very colorful.
A community that embraced so many religions and traditions in the past is vehemently opposing this new Han Chinese way of life that is being forcefully thrust upon them, using the most vile methods ever witnessed by humanity.
Turkestan has never part of China because our language, or religious, or culture, everything is unique. Not like China. Nothing same as China.
East Turkestan has always been under the rule of the Uyghurs of the various Khanates in the past.
You had the Uyghur Empire, which existed from the 8th to the 9th century. Then you had the Qarhanids, followed by the Chagatai Khanate, followed by the Yarkand Khanate, which was overthrown in 1705 by Naqshbandi Sufis with the help of the Jungar Mongols. And then in 1759, the Qing dynasty invaded East Turkestan, engaging in the genocide of the Jungars at that time, and tried to occupy East Turkestan.
After many long drawn-out struggles spread over years, the Uyghurs established the state of East Turkestan, also known as Kashgaria, in 1865, but the Qing dynasty launched another attack in 1877, and finally occupied it in 1884. After this occupation, they renamed East Turkestan as the Sinicized Xinjiang.
Xin is new, Jiang is the territory. It is mean new territory. If it is the part of China from the ancient time, why is it called Xinjiang? This is the occupied country today, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. This is the west part of the Turkestan. West Turkestan is history. Actually, in the history, whole Turkestan is one part. Big Turkestan, gross Turkestan. West part occupied by the Russian, east part occupied by the Manchuria.
After the first formal occupation of East Turkestan in 1884, the Uyghurs established their own country, not once, but twice, before being brutally crushed in the invasion of the People's Liberation Army at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party on December 22, 1949. Since that day, the Uyghur people have been downgraded to second-class citizens in their own country.
But I remember from very young age that we are not allowed to just say what we want to say. When my father and my elder brothers and my elder sisters, when they prayed, they often had to lock the gate from inside, and the little ones were told, "Do not go out, tell people we prayed." And my father often said, "If you do, police will come and take me away."
Yes, the persecution always there since the occupation.
The Uyghurs have a very colourful culture, one they are very, very proud of. Even under such persecution, they had in the past found ways to treasure their cultural heritage.
Uyghur people, through this long struggle, found a way around to still enjoy life. Because I was in this kind of very musical and religious family, so we had a way how to, treasure our culture and protect ourselves at the same time to enjoy music, singing and dancing. So those are the things that I miss most, is those other kind of life, quite sort of typical, the Uyghur way of life, very, very different from Han Chinese people. Even now, when I have nice dream, I dream the village, these scenes. So when we picked apple, we always sang. So I will be singing in one branch of the tree while picking, and then when I finish, the second song will be sang by cousins or my nieces or my sisters. So those are the kind of things that I remember. But also I remember that the terror that we felt, especially in 1997 and then afterwards.
Rahima Mahmood was forced to flee her country soon after that, and now lives in a small flat in the north of London, all by herself.
The reason I left my country, was that in 1997, in my city of Gholja, a Gholja massacre, 5th of February, happened. And the protest was absolutely peaceful, and maybe in the recent history in Gholja, that is one of the biggest peaceful protests. And the government deployed military from nearby town of Boyandai and opened fire to the peaceful protesters, killing over 100. And then from that evening, 5th of February, they started door-to-door search. It was terrorizing. You could see the Uyghurs have no right anymore, any longer. That was the event that made me think that things are not going to get better anymore.
Since then, the lives of the Uyghurs and other Turkic minorities have gone from bad to worse.
What has been happening there, really since the early 2000s, is a program of intensifying persecution, which since 2017, as a matter of policy, has accelerated to a very disturbing degree.
In the early years of this, of course, what China was saying was that they were dealing with terrorism, Islamic terrorism. However, under the cover of that claim, what was clearly happening was that a policy involving what we feel is a growing genocide of the Uyghur people has been taking place.
At this moment of time, we have no Uyghur intellectuals outside of either of camps or of prisons or of any slave labor factories. So this is the very saddest part of the whole the collective loss that Uyghurs are going through in the midst of this ongoing genocide.
China and the Chinese Communist Party, they have a fascist ideology. They see everyone that is not Chinese as inferior, as barbarians.
I would suggest that there is a dehumanization of the Uyghurs which is happening now and which has become a matter of policy. That dehumanization sees them as being of less value than other Chinese people. And for that reason, their lives can be treated as if they are worth less than other Chinese identities. So I think that's what's going on here fundamentally, and it's also the pattern that you see playing out with every genocide. Dehumanization is the predicate. Without dehumanization, the persecution, the abuse is impossible. And we're seeing the same thing in Western China now.
Many Uyghurs have dared to question the CCP, and call out their acts of barbarism, even at the cost of their own lives. Many others have had to leave everything that they hold dear and flee East Turkestan in search of a place to safeguard their lives.
I've personally met people from Xinjiang. I've spoken to people who suffered at the hands, direct hands of the CCP. I've met a doctor who is a Uyghur and who was at one point in his own life required to take part in forced organ harvesting.
It's been 20 years, little more than 20 years I left home. Although my life is already integrated in Europe, in London, but time to time, my hometowns come to my dream, come to my eyes.
It's not easy. It's not easy, especially when I have the chance to travel, to see my family, to take a flight which is less than 3 hours and see my family. And every time I feel guilty that he can't do this and he will never be able to do this.
Well, my life has been totally ruined.
I must tell you that there were so many nights crying together here.
But in Bible, there's a saying, it says, Jesus, there was a saying, if there's a crime is committing and you kept silence, and you will be the guilty one too. I just didn't want it to be the guilty one. Even the price is high, since I have seen it, I just couldn't keep silence. If I can go back to the time, I will do it again. Yeah. Even this result is hard left.
The Uyghurs are a very valiant and resilient community of people who are very proud of their culture. Another very courageous and proud Uyghur is the current Prime Minister of the East Turkestan Government-in-Exile, Salih Hudayar.
China is not a country, it's an empire. It's an evil expansionist empire that is governed by a fascist, communist party state that wants to, not just, engage in genocide and atrocities in East Turkestan, but beyond its borders.
They've made no secret of their desire to be the world's economic superpower and, very importantly, the most powerful military nation on earth.
The Belt and Road Initiative, or the One Belt, One Road plan, is the ultimate dream of Xi Jinping, and one that makes East Turkestan the most crucial part of the puzzle because of its geographical location, making it extremely significant strategically.
Xinjiang is often underestimated in terms of its topography and geography. It's crucially important to China, as is Tibet. And these are areas that have been occupied by China in order to be able to access the rest of the world. It suits their purposes to be in Xinjiang because Belt and Road would take them into the rest of Asia and into Europe as well, and of course into Africa.
To make this dream into a reality, China is willing to spend trillions of dollars and use the most cunning ways to acquire territory.
Today, 21st century, you cannot use military occupation, any country. Thus, use economic power than trying to monopolize it and occupy it.
Chinese Communist Party has been quite clever about the way they've proceeded. What they've done is they sugared the pill of their dictatorial and repressive regime with money.
China is engaging in debt trap diplomacy, encroaching on other countries' territories. You can see this in Sri Lanka, you can see this in Africa, you can see this in Pakistan, you can see this in Malaysia, you can see this all over Africa, in Central Asia.
This is the strategy of the Chinese government. We have seen Tajikistan, 2013, hand over around 1,000 square kilometer territory to China.
China is handing out easy loans to several countries. But where will all the money come from? The entire region of East Turkestan is abundant in mineral resources, and that has made them hostage in the hands of the CCP, which is exploiting the spoils of the land in order to quench its insatiable greed for power.
They need these places in order to feed people in China. They need these places because of the minerals, because of the resources that are in them. So this is all about exploitation.
And you can see the birth rate of the Uyghur population is collapsing.
It's always worth saying, follow the money and look and see who benefits from destroying these people.
The Chinese Communist Party has managed to amass huge wealth, making China a rogue power. It's now openly and arrogantly defying all international norms and is bullying anyone who dares to disagree with them.
There's no question in my mind that the Chinese Communist Party believes that their form of government is the right kind of government, and they are pushing that around the world.
It's about making the world safe for other authoritarians, and the subversion of United Nations institutions is part and parcel of that. It is the ultimate irony that the CCP should now sit on the United Nations Human Rights Council.
The Chinese Communist Party is running roughshod over anything that comes in the way of its ultimate goal of economic, political, and military domination of the world. Due to their strategically important geographical location, the peace-loving community of the Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in East Turkestan have found themselves right in the midst of this power play and are facing the full brunt of the CCP's wrath.
So I think this is a wake-up call to the world, that if you're indifferent to these things, they'll come for you next. And so the world has got to stand united against the authoritarianism of the Chinese Communist Party and distinguish between our love of China and Chinese people and its extraordinary civilization and values. Distinguish between that and what the Chinese Communist Party stands for. These are two very different things.
I believe that if the world really wants to have a good order and they never allow the Chinese government to make this genocide continue to happen.
The voice of the Uyghurs of East Turkestan has finally started to reach the ears and hearts of the people who matter, compelling these countries to recognize the atrocities faced by them as genocide.
So today, most of some world slowly understand Chinese Communist Party whole dangerous. Not for the Uyghur, for all the human beings.
The good news is that the UK government, slightly late in the day, has finally implemented the Magnitsky sanctions, which we campaigned for.
Go after the people who've got the power. Go after the people who turn the screw. Go after the people at the head of all of this and take the head off this serpent.
I was very surprised that Chen Guangzhou's name was not on the list of those being sanctioned. He's not only the person responsible for giving the orders in Xinjiang, of course, he learnt the trade of re-education, of incarceration, of the imposition of ideology. He learnt it in Tibet. That's where he cut his teeth in every sense.
He is on the American sanctions list, and he should be on the British sanctions list, so we're pushing to get him included.
I've named him in Parliament. No sanctions have been imposed on him yet, but I think it will only be a matter of time.
This recent recognition and action by the most powerful democracies of the world has heralded a new dawn of hope.
The only way that for us to fight this with a healthy mind is having the hope. We survived so many atrocities, so many massacres, throughout history, and faith is very, very important. Those in camps, they still continue want to live is the faith. What Chinese government, what the CCP don't have is what we have, that is faith. We have this unwavering faith. Even in the darkest hours, we always believe that the daylight will come.
I believe this communistic region cannot survive alone. But I don't know how long, but not long. I truly believe, I personally can see in my life Chinese Communist Party collapse and the Uyghurs, Tibet getting the freedom. I can return to my home. This I truly believe that.
While there is hope on the horizon, the pain and the suffering of the Uyghur people in East Turkestan continues unabated. Unfortunately for the Uyghurs, none of the efforts undertaken so far have accomplished anything to curb the relentless torture and killing. The CCP is not going to wait and watch. It has already begun to retaliate with all its might. It is therefore even more pertinent now than ever before for the rest of the free world to come together as one and bring this behemoth down once and for all.
So there's more to be done. It's a good start, but there is still more to be done.
Call it ethnic cleansing, call it genocide, or give it any other fancy name. It does not change the pain and suffering the Uyghurs of East Turkestan are going through every single day, despite living in the 21st century.
Act now to save the people of East Turkestan. Act now to stop China.
Bir bulungda yegane men nigarım yok Geceleri kara bastı Tumarım yok Bir bulungda yegane men nigarım yok Geceleri kara bastı Tumarım yok Bu hayatın özgeye ne Xumarım yok Cimcitlikte xiyal ezdi Amalım yok Cimcitlikte xiyal ezdi Amalım yok Besillerini bilip durdum bucaklardı Hiçbir haber alamadım çiçeklerdi Bu sevginiş ötüp gitti Soğuklardın Allah cay bu bararım var yanarım yok Allah cay bu bararım var yanarım yok